On wherever you might be.
Great.
Um, Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Live Well Live webinar, all about holistic weight loss. And today we're talking about a really important topic, of course, what to eat to lose weight. It's a obviously a really important topic for all of us on a weight loss journey or on a maintenance journey to maintain our achievement already. So without further ado, we will get cracking. My name is Dr. Samantha Wellapilly. I am a GP. I'm also a nutritionist, a yoga therapist, a coach, and an author, and do all these things to try to really support people on to make big changes in their lives. And right now, we're focusing on weight loss, which can make an enormous difference to our lives, our confidence, our health, our metabolic health, our the way that we meet the world. And I'm joined today by my colleague Ruth, who is also has a very similar perspective to me, and we'll be presenting together.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I am Ruth Taylor. I'm a nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor and also a registered nurse and health and wellness coach. We absolutely love being here on a Monday with you, and we're here for as many Mondays as possible during the year. So please do join as many as works for you. Yeah, absolutely. Could repeat everything you say, apart from all of those amazing skills that you have way beyond my own, Sam. So it's great to have you with us again today. And Sam is our lifestyle medicine lead here at the Boots Online Doctor. And we're very, very lucky to have you with us. So today, just to let you know, we're going to go through a few slides if you've not been here before, all about this whole story about what we should be eating to lose weight. Is it calories? Is it restriction? We want to blow away all of those confusing messages that we're being bombarded by. If you've brought any questions, please do pop them into the Q&A box. We prefer to try and find them there. It helps us keep that focus when we get to the question section at the end of the webinar. If you've got a personal health question that's related to your weight loss journey, and you're a Boots Online Doctor customer, please write in to our team and we will do our best to really support you with a more personalised response. If it's a general question, please do feel free to add it here. And I know people will put comments and questions in the chat box. We will do our best to find them. We can't guarantee. There's a large crowd here today, which is great to see. You're all very welcome, and we want to do our best to support you as much as we can. We're joined by a colleague, Chantal, who will be sharing the polls. The polls are completely anonymous, just gives everyone in the room a flavour of how everybody else is feeling, which I think is really nice. And we're going to start with a quick accountability check-in. So we'd really love to hear from you. What's been going well for you? Sam, you were here last week. How it was a
Yes,
busy webinar, wasn't it?
it was very
So
busy.
yeah,
We've got some great questions. The questions were very busy, so I would recommend the question and answer box is open. So if you have your question already, pop it in there. If you see a question from someone else that you really like the sound of, then please uh, do
vote for
upvote
it.
it
Yeah,
because it's quite good because then we can see which ones are priorities for everybody and focus on those. Uh, yes. So yeah, very busy last week and all about mindset and how we move forwards. Excuse
brilliant.
me.
Okay, so let's move on and talk about this very important slide. Sam, over to you.
Oh, yes. Blood sugar balance, my favorite topic. Okay, so if you are on a weight loss journey, you probably know all about your blood sugar and how important it is to your health. And basically, these two graphs aim to really simplify what we know about blood sugar and how it can help us and how knowing about blood sugar can really help us to uh, manage our cravings, manage our energy, manage how full we feel over the day. So let's take a look at the red side first so that it's and hopefully it will become clear. Please ask any questions you like about this chart because it's a really fundamental principle to support you in an active weight loss journey and in your maintenance phase also. We will
And
shortly
also
be
just
asking you what phase you're in, so that hopefully will help us to address your to focus this webinar. So let's start on the red side. Right. So this is what your blood sugar might look like if you are eating a high glycemic, you're making high glycemic choices, which is basically high carbohydrate or high sugar choices. Okay. high carbohydrate or high refined carbohydrate, I should say, really, are foods, let's say white bread, white rice, pastries, cake, cookies, those things that have that sort of processed white flour in, let's say, because that is a very easily digestible foodstuff. It breaks down into its component sugars very easily. Of course, we could include crisps, chocolates, sweets in that category also. So what happens basically is when you ingest something like that, your blood sugar shoots up because your body can digest it very quickly into its original parts. So that will be glucose, so sugar. Okay, so you get, therefore, that sugar tumbles into your bloodstream and you get this peak on this graph. Okay, your pancreas then kicks in and it works very efficiently, releasing insulin to tidy away that blood sugar, okay, to bring down your blood sugar to a normal level, which we can think of as that black line that's horizontal. However, if it's a large amount that you've consumed, say, say we've had a chocolate bar, okay, it can peak. It reaches a peak in your bloodstream. Your pancreas releases all the insulin to try and clear it away, but it might overshoot the mark. Okay, and that's where we get into this sort of star area where it says hunger on the slide. Okay, so you kind of overshoot the mark and you actually end up having that from that very high um, peak of blood sugar, you can get a low. So you can get a bit of a crash afterwards. And you might recognize that feeling if you reflect, that sugar crash feeling, that very shortly, maybe half an hour after having that chocolate bar, you can start to feel hungry again. And you're sort of looking around for another sweet thing or another pastry or a cookie or something to just get you up a little bit because your sugar has dropped past its sort of stable level, if you like. So you get to that hangry stage where you just really need to eat something. And unfortunately, at that stage, we kind of are looking for something that is sweet to give us like a quick fix to get us back up again. And unfortunately, we can end up on what I would call this sort of blood sugar roller coaster. So we can end up with these peaks and troughs over the day because we're chasing that nice, normal, balanced blood sugar often just completely unconsciously. We don't know we're doing this, but this can be the behavior over the day. So we end up feeling hungry, craving, and eating more. Okay. And at that sort of lower level, that sugar crash, we are looking for those really high carbohydrate, quick energy release foods. So that when we're unconscious about this pattern, this is what we can end up happening over the day. Now, let's move over to the green side. So this is if we are picking low glycemic or low carbohydrate, low sugar foods. Okay, those or high protein, high fiber foods, I should say also. These release energy much more slowly. So you can see that that line on the graph is much more of a gentle wave. It's staying in a nice sort of tight band. We're not dropping, we're not getting to that hangry phase, that sugar crash. We're releasing our energies more slowly from our food. We're feeling fuller for longer. And so over the day, we will eat less. Okay, so this slide is to really help you to understand a bit of the science behind why we really suggest that you eat the way we're putting forward today, because that balanced blood sugar really helps to reduce hunger, reduce cravings, and reduce those energy crashes. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions about that, because it's a really fundamental point, isn't it, Ruth, to basically how our food plans are designed, and how we aim to support you to really support how you plan your day, what your meals look like, if you're having snacks, what your snacks look like, how you're hydrating over the day, because we want to get you as far onto the green side as we can so that you're having that slow energy release, you feel fuller for longer, and you overall end up eating less and actually eating foods that really support your health as well.
Yeah, I was thinking, and we've shared our first poll. This is completely anonymous. It's just really interesting for us to see what's going on, how you're feeling in the room. I can see a lot of you are really struggling with cravings for sweet food, finding time to prepare healthy meals is a bit tricky for a lot of people, even knowing what to eat. So you're not alone. We can see lots of people are answering these questions, and the struggle is real for many of you. It's just really also helpful to bring your attention maybe to the areas that you're finding quite tricky, because if we don't own what's making it our journeys difficult, then it can be really hard to reset and to think about what might be helpful to be thinking about. So this is really relevant to what we're talking about today. If you're really experiencing those cravings for sweet foods, if you're experiencing slumps in the afternoon, if you're having hunger between meals, those three things alone really, really mean that this slide that Sam's just been talking through becomes really important for you to really start thinking about. Because actually switching or eating to following this plan, we're going to go into this in more detail, can really make a difference. And it also supports your whole metabolic health. So, in terms of inflammation in your body, insulin sensitivity, insulin working well to help you lose weight, all of those factors become really clearly supported. So let's go into this. But actually, I can see there's no real outright right winner here, Sam. Maybe the cravings for sweet foods is the biggest experience, but it's just nudged ahead very marginally. So thank you for taking the time to look at that. Crazily, everything's moved on my page. So let's go. There we go. Right, so let's move on. So we wanted to really talk about the core/GLP-1 eating plan. And I think they are both relevant. We were debating the other day whether they had differences, whether there was any difference. I guess for those of you who aren't on a GLP-1, then you'll want to be looking at the core meal plan. And for those of you who are on a GLP-1, you will want to look at the same version, but more orientated towards those who are on a GLP-1. So Chantal, if you could share both links to the resources, that would be really great for everyone here. You can then click on the link and download it. And if for any reason you're not able to download it onto your phone, don't worry, after today's webinar, we will send a copy of the recording and an email with all of the links to the resources in, so you won't miss out. So please don't worry if for any reason that's not instantly available. So this is really all about, we've looked at why blood sugar matters. So now, as Sam said, all of our eating plans have really been designed around supporting blood sugar balance, because this is a cornerstone of healthy, long-term, sustainable weight loss. Absolutely, this is one thing it is not about any element of restrictive eating. This is about following food plans and eating approaches that you can learn to enjoy real food. You can learn to enjoy food that you can eat not only while you're losing weight, but when you're maintaining the weight. So it's really simple. And actually, I think sometimes we can really be guilty, not ourselves, because we want to be simple. We as a society can be over complicated in terms of thinking about what should we eat, how often should we eat, what. Let's just keep it simple, everyone. So what do we want to do? Our approach is really simple. We want you to be thinking about lean proteins, healthy fats, lots of colourful vegetables, whole grains when it's necessary or appropriate, and really get away from the whole gimmick, the whole restriction, the whole I'm on a diet mindset. We want you to be thinking, okay, I can learn to eat in a way that is sustainable for life. We recommend aiming for 2 to 3 balanced meals every day, reducing snacking as much as you possibly can. Now, this might seem like we're talking about utopia and the golden world that Sam and I might choose to live in. We're talking about something to aim for over the long term. So if this is miles from where you are now, don't worry, we'll get you through. We'll just get you to start somewhere. But this is the long-term aim. Planning ahead, having meals and snacks organized to make healthy choices easier is really important when life gets busy. So I can see a few of you are really struggling with thinking about what to eat. Well, if you download our core meal plan and our GLP-1 meal builder, you can actually just choose something from each of the columns. Suddenly you've got a plate of food. We are not talking about making you all gourmet chefs. We're talking about you putting the right food on your plate and then eating it. That becomes simple. We don't have to all turn out these most beautiful meals. In fact, I think there's definitely a requirement for us to be thinking it doesn't need to be gorgeous. It just needs to be sustaining my energy. Don't forget your gut health. If we eat a wide range of plant foods, it can really feed your gut microbiome. And there's some really interesting research that's sort of coming to the forefront about how the importance of our gut health can really support healthy weight management. This isn't a short-term fix. This is a long-term way of eating that you can get your head around gradually, step by step, and we will really help you every step of the way. So really want to really encourage you to think this is simple, this is easy. I just need to learn some new rules here or some guidelines. I'll follow those guidelines. Let's see what happens. I'd love to hear from anyone who's been doing this successfully and how you're feeling. We know this is an absolute trick for bringing down those cravings, boosting your energy, and really just helping you feel that sense of full, the good old fuller for longer. It is true. This type of eating can really help with that. So, Sam, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we want to um, really avoid is thinking of this as restriction, as punishment, as a diet, which seems to be in our society some kind of word for some kind of food prison that we create for ourselves, that we're only in for a short stretch and then we come out and we do whatever we want. We have to really reframe this in our minds that if we're on a weight loss journey and we're serious about weight loss, about keeping the weight off for the long term, for whatever our why reason is, which is personal to us, whether it is about health, whether it is about having more energy for your family, whether it is about pain relief, there are so many reasons. Confidence is one, is a big one. Um, Yours is personal. Keep it in mind when we're talking, because we are talking about things that are long term, which we want to change for the long term, bit by bit. Certainly not everything overnight. We are starting somewhere. And in fact, could we run the poll so we know where in your journey you are, just so that we know who we're talking
Yeah.
to? Sheetal, I think you can probably find that it's weight loss phase, perhaps it's called. But it would be great to know because we'll all be in different stage of our journey, but we're really focusing on changing our mindset around the food choices that we make, learning a bit more about food and the foods that will really support our journey. It's not about cutting everything out, and it isn't about being perfect, but it is about being consistent and consistently choosing yourself when you're looking at, the ingredients or the food choices on the supermarket shelves, having it in mind which of these which of these foods are really going to support my goals, because my goals are really blooming important to me, and I am really dedicated to myself for that very personal reason, that why. So we don't want you to think about this as a fad, as a gimmick, as a short-term affair. This is not, we're not talking about a diet. I really don't like the word diet, but I know it's so much used, but we're talking about your food choices for the long term, for life really, and the way that you cook for yourself, the way you cook for your friends and family. And it can be delicious. Okay, it can be delicious. It doesn't have to be awful and unpalatable. And there are many ways that you can make change the taste buds, make sure that you start to discover different things, discover different foods. I am definitely one of those people who has put the same things in my supermarket trolley for, weeks and weeks, months and months, perhaps years on years, and not been very adventurous in the past, but trying to, reach a little bit outside of our comfort zone and try new things, because you never know, you might surprise yourself on things that you like, and think ways to prepare foods that are actually really delicious. And it doesn't always have to be beautiful, and it doesn't always have to be cordon bleu or whatever. Maybe you're wonderful chefs, all of you, but basic. It can be really basic and still delicious and still satisfying and still keeping your energy levels nice and stable over the day, so that you're able to do all the things you need to do over the day. Because that's the other thing. We know that when we have those energy crashes, those sugar crashes, we really, our thinking isn't very clear. We can get very anxious. We can get our mood can change. We can become quite irritable. Though we might notice that if we each of us reflects, noticing that when we notice, oh gosh, I had that chocolate bar and therefore it's kind of derailed me. But one derailment is fine. Just recognizing it and making an adjustment, you have that opportunity. When you understand what's going on physiologically, it gives you that opportunity to make a change. So I hope that really helps. Thank you for filling in the weight loss phase, just so that we know. So we've got lots of us here. 58% are just starting out. Fantastic and welcome. 29% are midway through, almost at their goal. 7%, fabulous. Maintaining. We've got 5% of you maintaining. Brilliant. So that's really helpful for us to know. Maintenance is a really important phase. So please do ask your questions about maintaining, because it's a really important phase to be focusing on, and more of us will be reaching that phase as well. So all those of you who've got a head start, brilliant, but we want to support you as well. But just starting out, getting the fundamentals in place with those eating plans will really help you to build your plate, just so that you have an idea what is a protein, what is fiber, what are healthy fats, what kind of carbohydrates are, better for me, but what does my tummy prefer actually, and noticing how food is making you feel. I think that's also something that can be helpful. Perhaps, in fact, Sheetal, could you share the food and mood diary? Because I think if you're just starting out, we've got a lot of people who are just starting. It can be really useful to just track without any judgment what you're eating and how you're feeling, and drinking. We put on fluids there as well, just to get a sense, because sometimes we don't connect what we're eating with how we're feeling, and it can give us a real sometimes a bit of a revelation of like, oh my goodness, that's why I'm having a massive slump at like 2:30 in the afternoon, because I had XYZ for my lunch. And what if I change that up? Then how do I feel at that 2:30, 3 o'clock slump time? It might be a bit different. So just it's a nice way to reflect, and we can share that in the chat box for you.
Very much so. And there's lots of questions that we will pick up, all related to whether to eat, whether to fast, whether all of these things. We'll pick those up in a minute when we finish sharing the slides. I've made a note of a couple that I know that would be helpful to come back to for more than one person, but also do pop them into the Q&A section. So let's move on. But I think this is really important, isn't it? So protein, why are we so excited? We hear a lot about protein, don't we? All of the time now. It seems to be like the thing that everybody is talking about. So let's have a look. I'm going to close that poll down. Hopefully it won't keep popping up. So I guess one of the things we want you to learn to do is to prioritize protein at every meal. We want you to think, okay, I'm making a plate of food. What protein am I going to put on my plate? Because actually we know that this is a really fundamental building block of a healthy body. It can help in terms of keeping you feeling full. It can help with tissue repair. It can help in terms of insulin sensitivity. It can help in terms of maintaining a healthy muscle mass. These things are so important when you're on a weight loss journey. We cannot overstretch how important they are. And as we get older, or as we're losing weight, maintaining that muscle becomes even more important, because it supports our metabolism, our strength, and our ability to live a healthy and happy life, honestly and truly. So what do we want you to be thinking about? We want you to be thinking of a minimum. This is sort of like your ground level. Generally, unless you've been put on a protein restriction for any health reason, you want to be thinking about 1 gram of protein per kilogram of your body weight per day. So say, for example, you weigh 80 kilograms, you want to be eating 80 grams of protein. Now, Sheetal is going to share, hopefully Sheetal, the protein in foods document, because actually if you weighed a piece of chicken or a piece of fish, that 100 grams of chicken or fish, only 25 grams of that would be protein. So it's very important for you to wrap your head around what that portion of food gives you in terms of protein. So we've created a document for you that helps you wrap your head around. We don't want you to rely on these documents, but when you're starting out, or when you need a refresh, or if you're having trouble and you're stuck in a plateau, these are the times to really think, okay, what's going on for me? Am I really nailing my protein? Really important. This is the one thing we really want you to think about. If you're nailing your protein every day and you're really hungry, you're experiencing cravings, you're really not finding that you're feeling satisfied after meals, there may be other reasons for it, but it may be also worth just upping that protein a little bit more. So good protein sources, there's many. So you want to be thinking, if you're a meat eater, turkey, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, beans, lentils, tofu, edamame beans, quinoa, nuts, seeds. They all bring amino acids into our body. So if you're a vegetarian or vegan, variety is also really important. I saw a question in the chat box. If you're struggling as a vegan, can you use a protein powder? Yes, absolutely. We would say build your plate around the food, but if you're struggling to get that level in, then supplement with a protein powder. So there's some really nice pea proteins that you can consider using, or rice proteins, and they would be really suitable. So really that's absolutely fine to do that, but food first. then the supplement of the powder second. We also know, looking at the research around powders, that they have a slightly higher glycemic response. So they're going to have a slightly less beneficial effect on your blood sugar. They're not going to be awful. They're not going to be like eating a biscuit or a Mars bar or something, but it isn't quite the same as real food. If you find that you're really struggling in late evenings, then instead of reaching for that chocolate bar or biscuits, which I know lots of people are snackers in the evening, then try maybe something like a protein-rich snack like Greek yogurts and berries. One of my favorites is almond butter and an apple, or it could be some of that skyr yogurt, which is very high in protein naturally, with some berries, very delicious, or maybe even a little piece of cheese would be the thing that would really work for you. It is just about finding the things that make you happy, the things that are healthy and make you happy. So let's move on. But this is really, really helpful and hopefully really interesting for you to be thinking about. So I'm going to
Yes.
quickly talk about healthy fats. Sam, do you want to talk about healthy fats? Go
No,
for it.
go for it. Go for it. I was just going to say, along with protein on that slide, we should also be mentioning fiber, but we will be as we go on to the
Yeah,
vegetables. But yes, but
absolutely.
protein, and also if you are exercising, some of us here, not all of us, and that's okay, we'll be doing resistance exercise and building muscle, in which case you might be wanting a little bit more than the 1 gram per
Yeah.
kilogram per day, because as you're doing resistance exercise, you're going to want to have more protein to build those muscle fibers that you are cultivating at the gym, playing tennis, walking the dog, whatever it is. Yeah, sorry, Ruth, to interrupt you.
No, really
Go
good
on with
point.
healthy
And
fats.
I'd go up to 1.1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram in that instance. So, yeah, really great to bring that up, I think. So, healthy fats. We've had years and years of living in a society where fats have been something that we've become a little bit nervous of, a little bit scared of. The discussion around fats has always been that they're perhaps not the healthiest thing for us to be thinking. But actually, we want to help you understand the importance of those healthier fats, those fats that can really help to work to create that sort of cell to cell messaging that we need to be happening. We also really need fats for our brain health. They help with hormone production, and they also are really important for us to be able to absorb those fat soluble vitamins. So we have 4 fat soluble vitamins, one we hear about a lot, which actually in the UK we're getting probably hopefully a fair amount of with all of the sunshine. So vitamin D, but also vitamin A, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So to absorb those, we need fats in our diet. Some of the great sources include things like the oily fish, but also olive oils, avocados, nuts, seeds, nut butters. And the oily fish are the fish that have got the slightly darker skin. So really think about your sunshine exposure, whether you're getting out, whether you're eating those healthy fats. All of these things are really important. You don't need huge amounts. You can use those oily fish as a protein and fat portion all in one hit, so they're a bonus. But also, if you're having a salad or you're cooking food and you're adding your vegetables, maybe just try drizzling some olive oil over the top, adding some nuts or some seeds. A tablespoon of seeds over the top of a meal can make it more satisfying, can really help again with satiety. And also then try and limit those sort of fats which are the less healthy, the highly processed or the fried type of fats. So there's higher in fried saturated fats. They tend to be higher in calories and much lower in nutrients. So they're the ones we want to be thinking they're an occasional treat rather than something that we have all of the time. So hopefully this makes sense. And also relating this back to the GLP-1 meal builder and the core meal plan, that should all follow through and make sense. So part of a really healthy diet, something we want to encourage you to pop in to every meal in small amounts. So I hope that makes sense. And Sam, fiber, go for
Yes,
it.
fiber and veggies. So this is really important. I know that we talk about protein all the time, but I think we have to think about humble fiber. And
Yeah.
that's where our wonderful veggies come in, and this beautiful slide with all these colors. So we know that veggies are full of, so especially above ground vegetables, full of fiber, especially our green leafies, and antioxidants and minerals and vitamins. There are so many good things within the whole food. If we can, especially this season, we're in the middle of summer, that it's very abundant everywhere. So hopefully we can be more easily filling our plates with colourful veggies. And we encourage you to fill at least half of your plate with a variety of colourful vegetables at lunch and dinner because of all of those fantastic plant compounds that support your overall health. And the fibre in those vegetables feeds the beneficial bacteria in the gut, which plays an important role in your digestion, your metabolic health, and may even support weight management. Fiber also slows digestion along, so it's digested slowly. Your body uses energy, so burns calories to digest fiber. Okay. Um, it helps you feel fuller for longer, supporting those steady blood sugar levels that we really are aiming for. So when you combine protein, healthy fats, and fiber, you create meals that are more satisfying and far less likely to lead to physiological cravings. Okay, so we talk about eating the rainbow. So we're thinking broccoli, we're thinking colourful bell peppers, we're thinking tomatoes, spinach, courgettes, cabbage, cauliflowers, asparagus, mushrooms. The more variety you eat, the wider the range of beneficial nutrients your body will get and your gut will receive also. Fruit is also part of a healthy diet. I would choose whole fruits rather than juices, just so that you also get the fibre. And you're not throwing, I know in a juicer, if you're going to have a juice, that's fine. A fresh juice is obviously better, but when you juice something, you lose the fiber. So we ideally don't want that. And also, sometimes the fruits that we juice, like oranges, are actually quite high in sugar also. So just be aware. It's just about awareness. Um, but yes, again, we talk about variety across the week. Berries are great. Berries are great for getting a bit of sweetness, but also managing blood sugar. Apples, pears, oranges are also great choices. Whole oranges, if at all possible. If you're having starchy veg like potatoes or sweet potatoes, enjoy them in sensible portions and combine them with a source of protein and plenty of vegetables to create that balanced meal. A simple goal to remember is our trusty 5 portions of fruit and veg a day, and you can aim for around 30 different plant foods across the week. Variety is really key. And when we say 30 different plant foods, that can include herbs and spices as well, which might make things a bit easier if that sounds a bit daunting. If that sounds completely impossible, don't go for 30. If 15 sounds like a stretch, aim for 10. Just gradually. You don't I know a lot of us are not so adventurous with foods, are maybe having the same thing multiple times across the week. Step by step, try and
Yeah.
increase it, try and bring that diversity in. Try different kinds of foods, different kinds of veggies and fruits that are, they're so abundant at this time of year. It's a great time to be a little bit adventurous and get outside our comfort zone.
Yeah,
So when you're
make a list. Just think, don't
absolutely,
stress.
yeah, no stress, just think what might be interesting. Maybe do a bit of Googling and see what looks interesting to you. Um, and when your plate is full of colourful vegetables, you're naturally increasing the volume of fibre without adding lots of extra calories. So your plate helps you manage your hunger rather than you relying on willpower. So this is, if we change the proportions of things on our plates, we're really supporting ourselves because we don't have to think that hard. And as we do this, it will become habit. It will become automatic. We know how to build a plate. Half of the plate is veggies, done. That's half of our plate already sorted. We've got a good amount of protein on there. We've got a bit of drizzled olive oil on there. We're making things are getting a bit easier, and like maybe a few new potatoes on there, maybe a small sweet potato, and you're done. It's I think it gets easier with practice, of course it does. But like anything, we have to start somewhere, and we're making a commitment to ourselves and sticking to it.
Very much so. I think that's it. And it's not about perfection. It's just about turning up, practicing, having
Yeah,
that sort of simple goal in mind, keeping those guidelines to hand if it's all new to you, maybe starting with one meal a day, not really overwhelming yourselves to get everything right all at once. So I
yeah,
think it's really important to be thinking about this. So, Sam, do you want to talk a little bit about whole grains? I think these are
sure.
another important food
Yeah.
source, aren't they?
So we're not ignoring carbohydrates at all. This is the final part of our core eating plan. It's whole grains. So we're really, as much as is possible, aiming to have whole grains. They're different from refined carbohydrates, which I mentioned earlier, because they contain more fiber, vitamins, and minerals. That means the fact that they're whole, for example, brown rice, they still have the husk on each of the rice grains. So they have more fiber, the vitamins and minerals within that outer coating. So they're digested more slowly, and they help to provide that steadier energy and also support your gut health. Okay, and these are just some examples: whole oats, quinoa, brown rice, barley, whole grain bread, or pasta. Okay, if you're including starchy carbohydrates, try and choose the whole grain version. So if you usually have white rice, try and add some brown, try and swap to brown rice, a whole grain, so that you can keep the and also think about the portion size, keeping that portion size moderate. Think of them as supporting your meal rather than filling most of your plate, which I know might be a bit of a change in mindset for some of us, but you know, the thinking half the plate is vegetables and we've got maybe around a quarter of it is that whole grain, is that brown rice or quinoa or whole wheat bread, for example. Okay. For weight loss, really look at building your meal around the protein and vegetables first and adding that small portion of whole grains if they suit your appetite, your activity levels and preferences. Okay, whole grains can be a healthy addition to your diet, but they aren't essential at every meal, so you don't always have to have a grain there. The most important thing is creating a balanced meal that leave you feeling satisfied, energized, and less likely to have those snacks between meals or in the evening time. So if you remember just one thing from this section is build your plate around protein, plenty of colourful vegetables and healthy fats. Then add the whole grains if they're right for you. That's the foundation of the core meal plan, and it's one of the simplest ways to support sustainable weight loss. So
Brilliant.
there's a little poll here. Thanks, Ruth. Um, what to
Okay.
eat? Yes, focusing on habits for the week ahead. Sorry, Ruth. Go ahead.
No, brilliant. And while we're just looking at that poll, I'm just going to quickly talk because we need to come to your questions as soon as possible. So while you're looking at the poll, I'm also just going to remind you that actually, while we spent quite a lot of time talking about what to eat, we also need to just quickly think, okay, what about the hydration aspect? What about what I drink? This is something that is often really overlooked. So we want you to really work on being well hydrated while you're losing weight. We know it can support your energy levels, but it can also help to support your ability to break down and burn fat. So something called lipolysis. There's some really interesting research for those of you or for those of us who are struggling with appetite and really finding that we're not feeling satisfied. Drinking 1 or 2 glasses of water before a meal can actually help to naturally reduce how much you eat. So this might be something worth trying if that sounds like you. The minimum we would want most people to be drinking is 1.5 to 2 litres a day. But actually, there's some really interesting research around more personalised targets. But I think in this webinar, let's stick with the 1.5 to 2 litres, unless you're on some sort of fluid restriction for a underlying health condition. So the aim isn't to drink excess amounts, it's just to stay well hydrated. And a good guide for hydration is that your urine should be a nice pale straw colour. So use that as your guide. So yeah, we've talked about the foundations. So this is another foundational step. And then we're going to quickly talk a little bit about eating for maintenance, because again, this is a really important thing to be thinking about. It isn't hugely different, is it, Sam? But let's just think what this might look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a completely different plan. It's simply about continuing the small habits that have helped you lose the weight to this point. And we've got a few maintainers here. So we're aiming for 2 or 3 balanced meals a day, including protein with every meal, staying well hydrated. Simple habits to support that steady energy, reduce cravings, and make healthy eating much, much easier. We're going to choose mostly real foods, whole foods, minimally processed foods, filling your plate with colourful vegetables and keeping ultra processed foods as occasional extras rather than everyday choices. Alongside your eating habits, try to include some muscle strengthening activity once a week. This doesn't need to be in the gym. Our Boots Online Doctor exercise videos are a great place to start if you want to start at home. They're short, they're beginner friendly, and they help to protect your muscle mass and support your metabolism during weight loss and maintenance of your goal weight. Finally, remember that no one eats perfectly all the time. There will be holiday celebrations and busy weeks. One meal or one day doesn't undo your progress. So if things don't go to plan, simply return. Just start again at your next meal. This is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about remembering what your goal is, really really being in that commitment to yourself, those small habits repeated over time is what leads to like lasting success, because they become automatic and the things you don't need to think about. Okay. And if you just remember two things from today, let them be this: build every meal around protein and stay hydrated. Those two habits alone can make a real difference to your appetite, your energy, and your long-term success.
Very much so. So quickly, key take-home messages. Three simple messages. Eat to balance your blood sugar. Build those balanced meals with protein, healthy fats, fiber, and colourful vegetables to help reduce those cravings and your hunger. Focus predominantly on eating real food, the food that doesn't necessarily come out of packages most of the time. Now, this may be a big stretch, and it may be that you just start with one meal a week, one meal a day. It is about where you are. There is no competition here. It's about you, and it's you building your own health. So, do whatever works for you, but this is your long-term aim. You don't need it to be perfect, just simple, nourishing meals that you can enjoy and stick with. And finally, just keep hydrated. That can really help to support all of the habits that you're trying to create. And it's all about making those small changes, consistent habits for lasting results. It's really important. Just want to quickly tell you while you're filling in our final poll, thank you so much for having a look at this. I can see 82% of you have taken part, so we'll have a quick look. Just to remind you, if you didn't know already, we are not here, unfortunately, next week. Most of our little team who run our webinars are not available to be running a webinar next week for various reasons. So apologies for that. But we will very excitedly be back on the 17th of August. And then we have no more gaps, I think, all the way through to Christmas, for goodness sake. So we will be back on the 17th. So Chantal, if you could share the link to sign up for the next webinar on the 17th, that would be great. And we're going to be talking about the other side of how to eat for weight loss. So this is all about, somebody asked about one meal a day. It's all about fasting, timing, and all of those other factors, which are really important for us to be thinking about. And then, yeah, now we're going to come to your question and answers, your questions, and we'll hopefully find some answers for you. Sam, do you want to quickly look at this final poll?
Yes. So we asked you what one habit will you focus on this week? So I think the winner is it's a tie, including more protein with every meal, or including protein with every meal, and eating more colourful vegetables are our winners. So excellent things to be focusing on. Those are really going to help. So let us know. So it won't be next week, but the week after. You have 2 weeks to focus on this new habit, and then let us know how you get on, because it will change things for you. I can guarantee that. So thank you for filling in that poll. There's lots
Brilliant.
of us on there wanting to plan their meals, cut back on ultra processed foods, and drink more water too. So
Brilliant.
thank you, everybody.
Okay, first question, which has got 28 likes or 28 upvotes, is: are there any vitamins or supplements recommended if you're taking Manjaro? Yes, we generally recommend taking a multivitamin and possibly a vitamin D if it doesn't have vitamin D in the multivitamin. Most of them will. They don't have to be an expensive source. You can just get something really basic from somewhere like your Boots or local pharmacy. So just have a look there. But just a multivitamin and mineral would be great. So please do have a look
Great.
at those. Grand.
Best foods and supplements or vitamins to build muscle as on weight loss injections and in menopause, just started HRT2. Okay, great question. So like we've said in the presentation, you really want to focus on protein. So if you are at the gym, or if you're doing some resistance exercise to build that muscle, obviously that can be at home, doing body weight exercises, using just very light weights at home. I mean, even like soup cans, I've often said in the past, having a double um, a backpack with a couple of tins of baked beans or something in it as you go out for a walk, just to add a bit more resistance for you, can be something that simple. Foods, you want to focus on protein. I don't think this is the right forum to recommend supplements, just because sometimes there are contraindications, but I think focusing on your protein intake and hydration is really important. If you're going to go and do some heavy exercise, making sure you have eaten something before you go is generally what I would say. Anything more to add?
Did you mention creatine?
I didn't, because I don't think we can really recommend that as a blanket thing.
No, but it is worth looking individually to see if it's something worth considering. Yeah.
Yeah, can be helpful, especially as you're in to start at HRT. It might be a useful thing for you, Fiona. Thank you for
Okay.
asking that question.
Brilliant. Somebody is asking what is the best way to avoid acid reflux and has been upvoted by 10 people. It would be helpful to know if this is just acid reflux generally or acid reflux as a result of taking a weight loss medication. If it's as a result of taking weight loss medication, we generally recommend you to space your meals and also to make sure you're really well hydrated. That can really help. And then if you're a Boots Online Doctor customer, please write in, let us know that you're experiencing these horrible side effects, and we can give you some more specific advice. But you can go to the pharmacy, buy something like some Gaviscon in the short term, but you may want to speak to a GP. Sam, anything you'd want to add?
I would think if you are on a medication, you might want to look at portion sizes because sometimes
Mm,
we really know what's we've always eaten this portion of food, and when the medication's on board, because it delays gastric emptying, we can't actually physically. There's not the space to have the same size portion. So maybe having smaller meals or smaller feels
good point.
meals more regularly might be the thing that helps.
That's great. Somebody's asking about specific recipes. We don't have a recipe book and we haven't actually got that on our wish list of things to create, but I love the idea. So I'm going to make a note of it and see whether we can consider creating a recipe book. Wouldn't that be fun, Sam?
That would be
Yeah,
fun.
that would be
Gosh, that
fun.
would be
But in terms of
in all our spare
recipes,
time, we can do that.
yeah, perfect. Good idea. Do it after lunch. Now let me think. I think things like the Michael Mosley Mediterranean 5-2 book is great as a recipe, not because you're following that 5-2 approach, but the recipes are so simple, really easy to create, really easy to follow, wide variety of different things. And I think the ones I've tried in there have really worked. Um, really have a look at low glycemic food plans. Patrick Holford has written a few books on low glycemic eating, so those are also worth considering. There's one with cherry tomatoes on the front, which I particularly liked, but I can't think of the name of it. Sam, any for you? I'm just also
Uh,
thinking,
I actually follow quite a few. I'm more of a sort of finding recipes on social media, so I
hmm,
don't really do books anymore, even though I have tons. But
yeah,
yeah, I oh gosh, what's her name? Sophie, plant-based Sophie. I follow all like plant-based people. I'm not actually completely plant-based, but I really like, it gives me ideas for create. So I'm not plant-based, but I like ideas how you can just get in so many different
yeah,
plants into your meals,
agreed.
and then you could add like a grilled chicken breast or something on the side, obviously if you're a meat eater. But yeah, so oh gosh, Sophie's Plant Kitchen, I think I follow.
Yes, so
I really like
yeah,
her because she's also a personal trainer, so she's actually building muscles. So they're quite high protein, even though they're fully plant-based. I like her. She's the one I'm following at the moment. But there's so, I mean,
cool.
yeah,
Maybe
lots
we'll
of
put a
people
list
out there.
together so we can
Yeah,
just
of
send some
things we
links through.
like,
Yeah,
people we
that's a
like.
good
That's
idea.
quite a
We'll
nice one.
start with creating links of what we like rather than building the recipe book tonight. So yeah, let's start there, Sam. Okay, uh, let's move on. Is it more difficult to eventually come off Manjaro the higher the size, the higher the dose? I think you mean the higher the dose that you're on. Um,
I would say not necessarily. Not necessarily. I would do it consciously. Like if you know if you're reaching your goal. So I think it's about planning, isn't it? And thinking ahead, right? I'm nearing my goal. What do I want to do? Maybe you want to reach your goal first on the dose that you're on and then slowly decrease it. More and more we're advising people to slowly decrease. You can
yeah,
just stop it if that is what you want to do, that's fine. But it might be a more gentle way to slowly decrease so you don't have everything come back at once, because there will be an increase in appetite. So maybe you want that to be incremental so that you can get used to what it feels like to have a bit more appetite. And actually, what am I going to do? I'm really going to knuckle down on those foods that make me feel fuller for longer.
yeah,
So I'm not overwhelmed and I've already embedded those habits. And I can see maybe as the dose decreases, okay, where I need to tighten up a little bit, where I'm slightly not quite on it, and that's okay. That's okay. And the thing is, certainly at Boots Online Doctor, if you decrease and you feel like, oh no, I think I've decreased too soon, you can go up again. So don't. It's a sort of it's a process. We're all a bit different. And it can be a little bit frightening and a bit anxiety inducing when we've got this sort of big helper with the medication, and then we're suddenly the helper might disappear. But if we just do it gradually and we do it consciously, stepwise, we really knuckle down on our lifestyle habits. That's how to do it. I think because the lifestyle habits will support you, and there are ways with food and with what works for you that will really support you as you come off a medication that's been, you know, really helping you along the way.
Definitely, I think absolutely. Somebody's asking if we have a low carb food list, particularly refined carbs. Is that because you want to avoid those? You'd like to know a little bit more. I'm interested in and lots of people are interested in this. So let's find out what you would like. Don't think we have that list at the moment. We have a vegetarian protein source, a sort of vegan eating list as well. So we could share that. Hopefully that'd be helpful. Somebody's asking about fruits. Yes, you can absolutely have fruits. We always suggest that you have them with a meal rather than a standalone snack because they can be higher in sugar, so they can disrupt that whole blood glucose balance. But also, if you do want a snack and fruit comes there, then just pair it up with a little bit of protein. So some nuts, some seeds, or a nut butter, or a little piece of cheese would really work with some fruit. So it's about creating almost, if you have a snack, thinking about it as being a little mini meal. So how can you create that sort of mini meal effect from your snack? So have a look at that. Yep. Okay, let's move on. Again, recipe ideas, people wanting recipe ideas. Okay, this is obviously coming up quite a lot, so we will come back to that. I don't think we'll re-answer the same overlapping question. How does the use of sugar-free gum affect satiety, and does chewing something sweet, even without sugar, affect digestion, hormones, etc.? Now that's really interesting, and I think I need to go and just dig my head into the research around this. Sam, any thoughts from you?
Um, oh gosh, I was reading something about xylitol recently,
Yeah.
and oh God, sorry, that's a great question, and I don't, the answer has escaped my mind.
See, my
Oh,
instinct is to say don't keep chewing in between meals.
because it releases all your digestive juices and
Yeah,
might
yeah,
make you
yeah.
hungrier, but there is something about xylitol that I think is actually somehow,
Okay,
but let's
we
not, can
promise. I've
we,
written it
yes,
down as
let's
a
put it
to
on a
go away
little
and
pause.
research.
Great question. We will come back to it.
Yeah, I've
Um,
read too, but I can't. It won't come to my head to say. Sources of iron and fiber, as I find it very difficult to reach my minimum requirements. Okay, well, we can do that. So fiber is obviously going to be all of those lovely vegetables, your lentil,
lentils.
snap,
Lentils got both. Um,
chickpeas, all
yeah,
of those legumes.
pulses.
Nuts have got lovely loads of fiber in as well, so they come in there too. Iron-rich foods, you're thinking the dark green leaf vegetables, things like watercress, apricots. What else am I thinking? Gosh, off the
I'm
top of my head,
assuming that
obviously,
you're plant-based, which is why you're asking, perhaps. I mean, obviously you've got red meat is
yeah,
rich in fiber. Um, but yeah, I think lentils also pretty high
yeah,
in iron and fiber. So
yeah,
um, you've got some good things to be getting on with there. Um,
perfect.
what have we
What
got
types of
here?
food are best for breakfast while taking Manjaro? Anything. Protein,
Oh,
protein, protein.
eggs.
Nail your day. Yeah, not eggs for me.
Eggs.
I don't eat them.
Oh, you don't eat
Sam,
eggs.
you all
See,
eat
I
eggs.
love eggs. I
Yeah,
love eggs. So eggs are a good breakfast one. Nuts, you've got Greek yogurt, you've got that skia or sky
however,
yogurt
yeah.
stuff. That was quite yummy. And
Cottage cheese can be
cottage
brilliant.
cheese.
Yeah,
I actually mix egg and cottage cheese and make it into like a kind of omelette affair. And if I have any sort of green leafies in the
I'd
fridge, I'll just
never have
quickly
breakfast
throw
with
that
you
in.
then, Sam.
No, we will never have breakfast. Ruth is not an egg fan, but I think eggs are great.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can hide them in things. That can work.
Yes. I mean, they're very nutritious, but it's personal preference. Not everyone likes eggs,
But
but
don't
if you
forget,
like eggs,
fish would work for
yeah,
breakfast as well. Chicken, tofu, scrambled tofu is really great. So all of those things can work really well. So it's about playing and trying different things and finding the things that you actually think, gosh, I really enjoyed that. I could have that several days and not be worried about it. Obviously, we want you to get that variety. We also have to be realistic about how many different options we can manage. Two or three
yeah, and
different
the
options for
time it
breakfast.
takes, yeah,
Yeah,
the time it takes, and noticing how you do feel fuller for longer. I think that's
yeah,
really key to sort of reflect on. Oh my, actually, I'm not that hungry. It comes to 11 o'clock, and I'd normally be going for the coffee break with the biscuits, but actually, I'm not that hungry, and maybe it's just habit that's taking me back here. So maybe I can have the coffee without the biscuits.
yeah,
Maybe.
definitely. with the nuts. Somebody
Yes.
is really new here, so welcome to you. Worried about losing muscle? Really good question. How to eat to keep and even increase muscle, lose fat. Okay, it is all about what we've been talking about today. This is your 100% guidance. Follow the GLP-1 meal plan or the core meal plan and the Mediterranean style of eating. They're all created 100% to help you get that satiety. And we don't want you to lose weight quickly. We want you to lose weight slowly. We don't want you to rebound and have really quick weight regain either. So it's all about slow weight loss, building muscle through some resistance form of exercise. You're not really building muscle, but you're maintaining your muscle mass and focusing on the fat loss. So hydration and the right foods are your go-to, your sort of foundation, and then putting in that resistance is really important. So those are the things to really focus your attention on. There are no absolute winners. There are no foods, even though there's all sorts of weird research saying, oh, eat this. There are some foods that maybe have a little edge over others, a little bit more individualized. So yeah, see how you go with that. Agree with that, Sam?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Right, I've got a person here who's stuck on a plateau, stuck at 65 kilos for 4 weeks. And if you're looking to get below 65 kilos, obviously stick with what you're doing. Plateaus are a completely normal part of a weight loss journey, where weight loss journey is not a straight line. We really want to encourage that gradual weight loss, as Ruth has just said. We're aiming for an average of 1 to 2 pounds a week, average. Um, we don't want dramatic drops if we can help it, because when we lose weight quickly, we can lose muscle tissue and we can slow our metabolism, because our body is wonderful, but it's primitive. It's not changed in thousands of years. So if we're not eating the same, we're not having the same intake, the body can kind of be fooled into thinking, oh, is there a famine going on? Has there been some kind of natural disaster? And therefore, I must conserve every little bit of energy that I can, slow all my body processes down so I'm not burning as much energy just resting as I was before. So that's a long way to say that it slows your metabolism. If we lose weight quickly, it slows your metabolism, and we don't want that. We want to have a nice, fast metabolism so that even when we're resting, watching Netflix, our body is burning calories, and that's what your muscle tissue does as well. So it really, your muscle gives you that buffer because it's so active. You want more of it so that it is just burning at rest, because it's such an active tissue type. Okay, so we want to lose the fat tissue in preference. So I hope that answers your question.
Somebody's asking about protein replacement meals. We wouldn't really generally recommend those. We would really want you to try and stick as much as possible to embellishing your diet with real food. If you are really stuck, then you could consider making a smoothie with a protein shake as a base and adding some berries. But you can make your own smoothie with things like some natural yogurt, some nut butters, some berries, a little bit of avocado, and hey presto, it's sort of like a liquid meal, isn't it? Which is full of all those healthy ingredients. But we also need to be realistic. So there are some, I think there is some good proteins on the Boots website, not the Boots Online Doctor. I think there's one protein, I think, which is called One, I think. Anyway, I'll have a look and I will find it for next week. And whey protein tends to be the most ideal, most amino acid rich protein, and whey protein isolate as well. But if you're intolerant to dairy, you may find that you struggle with that, in which case switch over to something like a pea or a rice protein. So there are plenty on the Boots website. We have looked at those and we're happy with those generally, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah. Does tinned fish have less protein than, I assume, than fresh fish? I don't see why it would,
I don't
but I
think
don't
so.
know the answer. I think tinned fish is fine. Tinned tuna, I would buy it in spring water if I was you. And that's a good source of protein.
That's a great question. Somebody's asking about Manjaro, which foods to reduce the likelihood of stomach or gut problems. Manjaro will slow down your sort of digestive flow. So most people will find that things become a little bit sort of slower. So it's really about making sure you're supporting your digestion by not eating all of the time, having gaps between your meals, chewing your food so that you're really chewing and supporting your digestion, making sure you're staying really well hydrated. All of those aspects can really help to reduce the likelihood of having stomach problems. So hopefully,
Yeah.
if you're a Boots Online Doctor customer and you want more specific advice, or if you run into trouble, anyone, do email in. We absolutely don't mind at all. We are there to support you on your journeys.
Absolutely.
So we've done that. 2 to 3 tablespoons of rice. Is this cooked? Yes, I would say that is cooked on the meal builder. So yeah, that's a quick answer. So yes, absolutely. Maintenance is a bit of a seesaw. I can vary by about £7 across a couple of weeks. Absolutely fine. We would expect
I
that to be
think that's
your
great.
buffer.
Actually,
We
I think that's
think
brilliant.
we would
Well
say
done.
maintenance is a sort of like stick. Give yourself a £7 buffer. So say
Yeah,
your
like
lower
a
and your upper
range.
weight.
Yeah,
Give yourself a range. Don't be thrown if you are oscillating between those levels. That's absolutely fine. If you go over, just really think about, am I eating the right foods? Am I drinking enough? Is there an opportunity to just re-look at everything in a little bit
yeah,
more detail to make sure I'm not going to go up again? But
yeah.
that is what we expect. We don't expect one number to be seen on the scales every day. We expect it to vary, don't we, Sam?
Yeah, of course. It will vary over the day. Sometimes it helps to always weigh yourself at the same time of day. You know, Friday morning is the day I weigh myself. If you do it every week, you don't have to, obviously. But
Yeah.
just don't let it throw you. There's always going to be a range because there will be a range over one day, just depending on meals and drinks and all sorts of things. There will be fluctuation in a day. I think £7 over a few weeks is absolutely fine. Come back to basics if you think it's creeping and going the wrong way. Come back to basics. Don't panic. Calmly come back to basics and reassess where you are. What is anything slipping a little bit? Where does it need to be tightened up a little? And be kind to yourself.
Okay, somebody's saying they have PCOS and thyroid issues, which makes losing weight a little bit harder or so much harder. They're saying no blood sugars are affected by this. Can I still follow the same steps? Absolutely. This
Yes,
will be
yes,
absolutely your perfect approach. So yes, please follow this. Please don't expect miracles. Expect there to maybe be a slightly slower progression, but you can achieve the results you want by following these steps. So come back, ask more questions next time we're here, and yeah, please let us know. Somebody's saying they've got severe insomnia and have to have a snack at 4 a.m. Is it okay to eat at that hour? You are going to potentially upset your circadian rhythm. We would recommend not snacking then, but send in a message if you're a Boots Online Doctor customer and see if we can do anything to help. We do have a whole webinar on sleep and how to improve your sleep. We know for many people, sleep can be quite a problem. So do watch the replay of that and come along for the next time we run it, I would say. Great.
it's 2 minutes past two, so we might have to
Yeah.
go. There are so many questions. I'm sorry that we haven't got
I
through
think what
all
we'll
of them.
try and start doing is thinking about the frequently asked questions, seeing if we can produce something to share about those. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, so we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much. We have a whole webinar on cravings, so I'm sorry we didn't get to your questions, but please come along to our cravings webinar. Someone asked for that.
Yeah.
Struggling with the taste of veggies, I would say use herbs and spices. There are so many vegetables. I cannot believe that anyone could find like every single vegetable distasteful. There must be something that you like. And preparing things in
And
different
also
ways
just
to really
treat
help you.
yourself like a child and blitz it. That's what you
Yeah,
do with children. You hide the vegetables. So even if you have to hide the vegetables from yourself and make a sauce that tastes yummy, blitz up some vegetables, make it taste yummy, and then you can really do it, because I think we just have to learn to eat those foods in whichever way. There's no perfect way. We're all different. I could eat some foods all the time, and others very little of the time. We're all
like
human.
eggs, right? Like eggs.
Like eggs, which we know are our number one fabulous food. So thanks everyone so much. We will be back the week after next, and we really, really look forward to joining you and seeing you then. Have great weeks. Let us know how you get
Yes.
on when we come back. And we have shared a feedback form. So please take a moment, if you have time in your days, to fill this in. We love seeing you, and we're very grateful for your time too. And thank you so much to Chantel for
Yes.
sharing all those links. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.